Okay, Zok the Heilige Gemara. I believe we got all the way to this dot that's about 15 lines down on the top of Tzadik Beis Amud Aleph. And what it said was, the last thing we learned is, and if someone does teach uh, someone does teach Torah, if someone does teach his Talmud Torah, he gets all the brachos of Yosef, because Yosef was a mashpir. The pasuk regarding teaching someone Torah uses the word mashpir as well. It says, "Moinei bar yukavula oim," someone who is going to serve up Torah, he's going to have great bracha. The bracha like Yosef, who was also known to be a mashpir, and someone who teaches Torah ba'olam hazeh will be zoicha to teach Torah la'olam haba. Amarava, we nine that Chiyas HaMesim in the Torah. Back to our theme, how do we know that Chiyas HaMesim is min the Torah? Shenemar says in the pasuk, Yechi Reuven va'al Yomos, and we darshan Yechi Reuven va'olam hazeh. Al Yomos is la'olam haba. Ravina Amar Mehacha. It says V'rabim. Let's see the whole pasuk inside. His tests over here. V'rabim yashne admas offer, and all of the or many of the people who are sleeping in the ground. Yokitsu will wake up. Ela l'chayolam, these l'chayolam, ve'ela l'charafos l'duradoim. So, so you see them here that they're going to wake up. V'rabin miyashmi ad this offer are going to wake up. It seems like not everyone's going to have it good. Some people are going to get punished, but everybody will wake up. Let's look at this inside as well. Zoom in on it. It's possible. I just have to get this camera to focus. Oh, V'ata leich lakates, go to the end. V'sanuach, and you'll lie down. You'll die. V'samoid, and then you'll stand up. L'gayrocha to your gara l'kates hayomin. So once again, it's miramis that people are going to wake up. V'ata leich lakates, v'sanuach v'samoid l'gayrocha l'kates hayomin. Omar Rebbe Lozer, called Parnas Shemamik as a tzibur benachas. If a leader leads the tzibur with kindness, with softness, zoicha umanhigam lo'olam haba. He will be zoicha to continue leading Klal Yisrael in olam haba as well. Shenemar ki merachamam yinhagim, because he was meracham on them, he will continue to lead them. Mabui bayim yinalim, and he will be able to lead them to beautiful springs of water. Knowledge, intelligence is great. You know why? Because it was placed, the word Deya was placed in between two shemis of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shenemar, it says in the pasuk, Ki Keil Deyos Hashem. So before Deyos it says Keil, after Deyos it says Hashem. Deis is sandwiched in between two shemis of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It must be a very important item. Gadol Mikdash. Shenamar, we say this every day in Oz Yashir. Palta Hashem, Mikdash Hashem. So Mikdash is sandwiched in between two Hashems. Maska Flor Ada Karchinoa. So I listened to Dr. Henry Abramson. And he says, Pashas Ada is a mistake. It's Rab Acha Karchino. And I think he said there's about 75 Rab Achas mentioned in Shas. And there's so many of them, so usually there's a suffix to the Rab Acha, because which one is it? So Karchino means he was probably bald. They called him the balder of Rab Acha. Ella, Me'ata Gedoyla Nekama Shenitna Ben Shtei Oisios. Are you going to say the same thing about Nekama? Punishment? That it's also in between two oisios, the chsiv Keil Nekamais Hashem, Keil Nekamais Hafia. Amar lei. So he answered. So Rabbi Lazar answered, Lemil say, for what the Nekamais has to accomplish, the fact that it's in between two Keils is important. Hachanami, Kitu Ula, like Ula said, the Amar Ula, Shtei Faris Halalu Lama. So Rashi explains. It says, Kel Nekamis Hashem, Kel Nekamis Hafia. Hafia is going back on both of the Kel Nekamis. So why do we need a Hafia on the first Kel Nekamis, and why do I need a fee on the second Kel Nekamis? Thank you so very much. Zog to Gemara, Achas l'mida toiva, one's for mida toiva and one's for midas peronius. What is the toiva and what is the peronius? So Rashi explains the mida toiva is that a Kadosh Baruch Hu is going to come close to us. So how is that Nakama? Because Nakama means payback. Payback for our good deeds. The Kadosh Baruch Hu is going to come close to us, and the Kadosh Baruch Hu is going to punish the Rishonim. Let's take a quick read through Rashi. Chadel toiva shal Yisrael, which will be good for Klal Yisrael. Sheshi like sechinasei me'umois olam u'bal Yisrael. Kadosh Baruch Hu pulled the Shechina away from the Goyim and brought the Shechina to the Rabbanis Shalom. The Koilin the Kamois, why is it called the Kamois? The Kamois sounds like revenge. Mishum the Tigmoel Toifu. It is a good revenge. Shezochu l'Shechina al she'amru Nasa v'nishma. So why did Hashem come to us and pull away from the Goyim? Because we said Nasa v'nishma. Unakam anitaglo. Nakama is payback. That's one of them. V'achas l'Parani is la'odik achav mishen nifer mehen l'yamadin. Kadosh Baruch Hu will punish the Goyim l'yamadin. Kedamrim perakam b'dem sechasavay noikem Hashem u'ba'alchema la'akum. But Hashem doesn't punish the Goyim through a shliach shehu ba'atzmo u'b'chvoidoi nifer mehen. Behind haifa, that would be haifa. What is the article attached to word as haifa? Appear? Appear. Okay. So Kadosh Baruch Hu appears to do these things.
Yeah, currently, yeah.
Kadosh Baruch Hu appears to appear to us, and he appeared to punish them as well. The Omar Rabbi Lozer, Kol Adam Sheish Boi Deya, anybody who has Deya, Ki'il Nivne Beis HaMikdash B'Yamav, it's as if the Beis HaMikdash was built in his times. Shazani Tein Beis Deyos, the word Deyos is in between Keil Deyos Hashem and Vizani Tein Beis Deyos, and so is Mikdash. So Deya cannot mean someone's a Talachachim, because how you talking? Like, I don't know, Parshas Deyos means a person who has right Deyos. He has right Hashkofis. He first like an Eir L'Chayid. It doesn't mean you hear the guy to see what he knows. I assume it means that that someone who has the proper day, someone who has the proper attitude and approach to life. That's just my guess. Someone with daya will eventually become rich. So it can't be that he has a lot of Torah. It says so it must be someone who has like common sense, someone who has the right approach to life. Shenemar uvedas hadorim yimolu kol hoin yakar v'noim. With das will his storehouses, his private places be full of wealth. If somebody does not have the again, can you say somebody who doesn't know kol tarkula shouldn't have rachmanos on him? It means it probably has, if someone has the wrong ashkofas and he's going in the wrong path, there you don't have rachmanos on him. Shenemar ki loy am binois who, since he's not an am of understanding, alkein lo yirachamenu oisehu. His creator will not have rachmanos on him. V'yotre lo yichunanu. V'amar v'lozer kol anoisin pitoi l'misha ein b'idea. Someone gives his bread l'misha ein b'idea. Again, it doesn't make sense to say that if you give tzedakah to someone who's not a talmid chacham, yisur and barnallah. It means if someone's going in the wrong path. Shenemar lachmecha yasimu mozar tachtecha ein tvuna boy. So lachmecha yasimu. If you give bread, mozar, this you'll get yisurim because ain't tfuna boy because you gave it to somebody who doesn't have tfuna. So then Moser yisurim shenemar bayar Ephraim es chelyoy v'Yehuda es mezuray. So you see Mezuray is referring to yisurim. Yomar belozer kaladim shem v'deya l'soif goyla eventually go to golos shenemar l'chein gola ami mavle das. Yomar belozer kol bayis she'ain divrei Torah nishmoyim boy balayla. A home who you don't hear divrei Torah coming from the house at night. Eish eichlosei will be eaten by fire. Shenemar kol choshech tomun l'tzvunov tachluhu eish loy nupach. Yeras rid ba'aholoi. So how do you dash in this pasuk? Rashi says something. I thought it's very interesting how Rashi dashes this pasuk. Rashi kol choshech tomun l'tzvunov kol laila sofun v'nerba mimatzpunei HaTorah. Any night that's hidden, that's musulak, that's taken away, that's removed from the secrets of Torah. She'ain divrei Torah nishmon b'ayis. Because if there's no divrei Torah heard in the house, it's as if the Torah is musulak, it's removed, it's hidden from being exposed to this house. So in such a house, taychlu eish nupach. What type of fire should eat it? the fire of Gehenim, every fire, everybody knows when you make a barbecue with charcoal, you got to fan it. It needs a lot of air. But the fire of Gehenim is so powerful, it doesn't need any air. It doesn't need oxygen. It just burns. So that's the type of fire that will consume a house without Torah. I guess the oxygen is the Torah, the Torah is the oxygen of the house. Now, Yeir Shrid B'Halai is Misharab Be'enav Sheyesh Shrid B'Halai. So it's a double whammy. There's no Torah in this house. At night, the Torah is Mesulak because he doesn't want to have Talmid Chacham in his house. So there's no Torah in the house. What's going to happen to why? It was bad for him. He didn't want a Talmid Chacham to be in his house. Ein Shrid Elo Talmid Chacham. A Shrid is a Talmid Chacham. Shenemar Uvesridim Asher Hashem Kairei. The Omar Rabbi Lozer Kol She'enim Yehana Talmid Chacham Nechasa. Any person who doesn't give to benefit Talmid Chacham from his Nechasim, Ein Roya Simin Bracha Lo'olam. He will never see Simin Bracha. Shenemar Ein Shrid La'achloi Al Kain Lo Yochel Tuva. His good won't grow. He won't be Matzliach. Ein Shrid El Talmid Chacham. So it's good for business to be mative to Talmid Chacham. Shenemar Uvesridim Asher Hashem Kairei. That's how we know that Shridim are Talmid Chacham. The Omar Rabbi Lozer Kol She'enim Yishayir Pas Al Shulchanai. If you don't leave bread on your table, it means when you finish eating, when you bench to leave some bread over, Einei Raya Simin Bracha Lo'olam. Shenemar, the pasuk says, Ein Shrid Lo'achloi Alkein Lo Yochel Tuvoi. So here Shrid is not being used to refer to a Talmid Chacham, it's being used to refer to leftover bread. What's the svara? What's the reason why you need leftover bread on your table to be able to have a Simin Bracha? So Rashi says, She'enim Ashar Psisin, the Tzarech L'Shayir K'dechsiv Echel V'Haiser. The way to have a Siman Bracha by eating is if you have leftovers, it sort of shows a shefa that you have leftovers. So you're thanking Hashem, not only that you have enough, but you have extra. That will lead to good things. And if you don't, you won't say a Siman Bracha. For the Gemara, we have a brayso that says just the opposite. We have a Gemara that says just the opposite. Rabbi Belazar, punkt verkeerd. If you leave pieces of bread on your table, it's like you're Ovid Avodah Zarah. Shenemar, it almost looks like after you finish eating, you're leaving like Shirayim, you're leaving something for the Avodah Zarah to take. Shenemar, ha'orchem lagod shulchan. If people set their table for the Avodah Zarah of God, or v'memalim lemani, there was a god that was called Mani. Mimasa, from his poured wine, that is a bad thing. Zok Gemara, that's what it says between the words. Zok Gemara, loy kasha, it's not shver. If there's a complete challah that you leave on the table left over, that shows you're leaving it for a getchka. That's a very big problem. But when we leave over, just leaving our crumbs on the table, the broken pieces, that's the right thing to do. It shows there's plenty. That's a good thing. If somebody disguises his voice, so sometimes I like doing a Revelia impression, but it says if you disguise your voice, it's like you're doing Avodah Zarah. Tzivacha by Yaakov, he told his mother, I will be like a liar to him. Now, I don't know if Yaakov disguised his voice. It says that Yaakov by Yudai Midei. So there he's being misadeh because he's trying to take on somebody else's identity. So I think it means if you actually try to take on somebody else's identity, that's where it's going to be Avodah Zarah. Because he thought that Esav would. I hear. I hear it. So I'm not sure, but you see, Yaakov was worried about it. But Hamachlef b'dibur, Rashi says, so he's trying to disguise himself. So I guess if you imitate somebody and you're not trying to disguise yourself to be them, you're just trying to imitate them, that might be allowed. Here it's saying is if you're actually trying to take on identity theft. So here's the idea becomes Sateya. B'ksivhasam hevel hema ma'aseh tatuim, referring to Avodah Zarah. Yomer Belozer. If someone looks at erva, which Rashi has two different shatim, either means you look at the actual part of a body that's an erva, or you're looking, or someone fantasizes about being mizana with an eshishish. Rashi is two pshat. We'll see it inside. Kashtad in Harris, he's going to require Cialis and Viagra if he looks where he's not supposed to. Shenemer Aria Tar Kashtecha. If you're too exposed, if you're seeing too much Tar Kashtecha, it's going to ruin your bow. In other words, you're going to need medical assistance. Let's see Rashi. Kashtad in Harris. Koyach kushi ever shaloi ninar. The strength of his aver will be taken away. He won't be able to give birth because it's not going to stand that attention. Shenemer Ariya tar kashtecha. Ariya sha'ata. The fact that you're looking sha'ata mistakel ba mamish be'ervasa that he tar kashtecha. Davar achar mistakel means hamachashe barayos to eshishish. So either way, it's not healthy for one physically to indulge where it's not appropriate. Zog to Gemara weiter. Always be humble, the kayim, and then you'll last. Is it kavel? Is it kavel? How is it pronounced? Kavel. A person has to be discreet, humble. Bayis ofel, a dark home. It says in the pasuk, but if it's the house that's dark and you can't see, you don't open windows to bring in light so you could examine the nega better. In other words, a dark home, a humble home, is immune to negoyim. Why? Because you don't go looking. So I think it's symbolic that HaKadosh Baruch Hu isn't going to scrutinize what goes on in a home if the home is a humble home. And the person is a humble person, the Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't scrutinize as much. Amar B'Tavi, Amar B'Yoshia, my Dechsiv, Sha'oil is Gehenim, V'Yoyterechem is the uterus. Eretz, they are lands, Lo Shevei they don't have enough water. Frank the Gemara, V'Chima Inyan Sha'oil Eitzel Rechem, what does a Sha'oil, a grave, have to do with a uterus? Eloleimelach, my Rechem, just like the uterus, Machnis, the Aver goes in, and Zera goes in, Umoitzi, and what pops out? A Vlad, Avsha oil, so too the kaver, machnis, it takes in, but umoitzi, meaning there's going to be tchias hamesim. Valadvorim kal v'chayimru, umay rechem, shemachnisen boy b'chashoy. When does something enter the rechem? Not with big fanfare, in quiet, in private, unless you're Zimri and Cosby. But other than that, it's always something that's a very discreet action. Nevertheless, when a baby is born, moitziin mimenu b'kailei kailos, it's a big simcha, it's a big announcement. So she'oil, shemachnisen boy b'kailos. When they bury somebody, there's a lavaya, there's crying, there's a whole tumult. Eino din kol shkein shemoitziin mimenu b'kailei kailos. When Mashiach comes, it's going to be a knackadik, it's going to be lebedik. Mikan tshuva, this is a good answer, a good response, a good refutation. To those who try to say in the Torah. Tzadikim she'asar HaKadosh Baruch Hu lachyoson, the tzadikim that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will be mechaya eventually, einon chazon often, they're not going to die. And we're going to see that there's different periods where everyone has chesed, everybody dies, they're not going to die. She'nemar v'haya nisher b'tzion v'anoisher b'shalayim kadosh yoymer loy. And therefore, Kalakos of L'chaim Yerushalayim, we're darshaning anyone who's written. I'm sorry, Kalakos of L'chaim Yerushalayim. Period. That's the pasuk. So Ma Kadosh. I'm sorry. After the Chitz Chametz, they won't die again. So you're asking everybody else will? We're going to see in a second. Yes. Ma Kadosh L'olam Kaim. Just like Kadosh is there forever. Now I'm not sure what that means, unless it means if something has a kedusha, it never goes off. It always goes. Even if you redeem it, kedusha, the kedusha stays forever. That's how I understood what it means. Makadosh L'olam Kaim. What is the actual touch? Makadosh L'olam Kaim.
Just like the Kadosh Baruch Hu, there's.
Oh, it's referring to Kadosh Baruch Hu himself. I thought it was referring to kedusha. Okay, just like Kadosh Baruch Hu's L'olam, Afheim L'olam Kayamim. So too they will be there forever. So now the
righteous resurrected, right?
That's right. They'll stay forever. Well, what does it mean? What does it mean they'll stay forever? Who's dying? Vim Taimar Oisam Shanim. There are going to be years where HaKadosh Baruch Hu is doing a gutting of the world and a full renovation, and everybody had to move out. In other words, the world is going to become like Gaza. In order to do a proper rebuild, to gut and renovate the whole thing, everyone's going to move out. So when the Kadosh Baruch Hu is doing a complete gut, as Rashi says, "V'yiyah olam zeh," our world will be chara for elef shanim, for 1,000 years. I guess it's going to be done union. It's going to take 1,000 years to do. Where are they going to go? If you're going to tell me they're not going to die, but there's nowhere for them to be, they have no place to stay. So Shenemar v'niskav Hashem levadoi b'yayimahu. During those days, Kosh Baruch is going to be alone. Hakadosh Baruch will make them wings, kinesharim like eagles, v'shaten al panei hamoyim, and they will be able to glide and fly all over, which means they're going to be flying without landing for 1,000 years. That gets tiring. Shenemar al kain loy nira. Don't be afraid. B'hamir eretz. When the world gets changed over, the might harim b'lev it's not easy to fly and flap your wings for 1,000 years. Hashem will constantly give him plenty of koyach. Dr. Rashi koyach loshut v'lov b'litzar. So it's like in-air refueling. That's what it's like, right? They get more koyach. Yalu ever kanesharim yarutzu, they'll be able to run v'lo yigo. They will not become exhausted. Yelchu, they'll go v'lo yiafu, and they won't become tired. Freit the Gemara, how could you say that? V'neilaf mimesim she hechra Yecheskel. Why don't you learn from the Mesim that Yecheskel resurrected, that they right away died? Zok Rashi shekozru meis. So kach tzadikim she'osid lahachyois also yachsru la'afram. Kach shemati Zok Rashi. That's what I heard. Pshat. Yecheskel higleu Nebuchadnezzar im Yechanya melech Yehuda. Yecheskel Hanavi was also exiled to Bavel together with Yechanya. Yecheskel misnabe beBavel. In Bavel, Yecheskel was saying Nevuah, and in Eretz Yisrael, v'yirmiyah be'Eretz Yisrael. But oisin achas esrei shana shemelach Tzidkiyahu. The 11 years that Tzidkiyahu was the king after Yechanya was dethroned, they were both saying Nevuah. So he was Machaya Mesim, which we're going to learn a lot about. And I believe that the Mesim that was Machaya are the cornerstone of a cartoon strip called Dry Bones. You ever heard of Dry Bones? So the dry bones are the dry bones in the Navi that Yecheskel Hanavi was Mechaya. That's the first time we find anything about dry bones. But anyway, that's a different topic. What? That's right. All comes from the Eden. So Zog to Gemara, v'neilat mimesim she'ech that they did die. Zog to Gemara, Savala command the Omar be'emes moshel. Maybe what we're learning here holds. Who's the one who said that they won't die? I think it's Rabbi Lozer, right? Rabbi Lozer said in the it's Rabbi Lozer. No, Tanit Velio. So maybe Tanit Velio holds like the Tana who holds that the whole Nevuah of Yecheskel being Mechaya Mesim never happened. It was just a moshel. The Tanya, we have a three-way machlokes in this story about Yecheskel. Rabbi Eliezer Amar Mesim Sheachse Yecheskel Amdu Al Ragleim. They all stood up. V'Amru Shira, they said Shira Umesu, and they dropped dead. They were just alive for a little while of Shira. Ma Shira Amru. What Shira did they say? Hashem Memis B'Tzedek U'Mechaya Barachem. Now Rashi gives us some background. This whole thing happened is because the Yidden were very, very depressed, as David Zolti mentioned in the Teil Amad, that they were in Israel for many, many, many years. They were so totally unaccustomed to Golus. They couldn't find themselves. They didn't know what to do with themselves. So they had given up, and they said there's not going to be Chesameitim, and we're done. So Yecheskel did this to show them that there will be Chesameitim. So he demonstrated, he did a live demonstration of Tchiyas HaMesim for them. Okay. I also missed a very important Rashi. What type of moshel is it that they, emes moshel hoya, according to that Shita? So Rashi show you Miramis Lema Lagolos. He was trying to tell them, don't give up, don't be depressed. He was just referring to the fact that just like when someone dies and he comes back alive, that's what's going to look like when we come back from our goals. Because we feel dead, We feel like everything's lost, but we're going to have a
Showed
resurgence.
it by resurrecting them for 1 minute and dropping dead, that made them feel better.
I guess it did. Because it showed that it could happen. But if you hold them as much, he just told them, you're going to see, we're going to have a resurgence. But we're going to see they might have been very bad people. He was just using them. This is what they said. Hashem Memis Umachaya, Moirit Sha'oil, he takes you down to the depths, Vayol, and he takes you up. Rabbi Yehuda is the third shita that we're saying the Tana Devilio corresponds to, and he says Emes Moshel Hoya. So the Gemara, is it Emes or is it a Moshel? Make up your mind. Amal Reb Nechemia, Im Emes Lama Moshel, Im Moshel Lama Emes. Ella, what it means is Emes Moshel Hoya, but the truth is for sure it was a Moshel. And again, the Moshel is that we're going to have a resurgence. Klal Yisrael will have a resurgence. Rabbi Elazar ben Nosh Al B'Yosek Lili Omer Mesim She'echse Yecheskel. The Mesim that Yecheskel was Machaya, all Lula Eretz Yisrael. They stayed alive. They didn't drop dead, like we looked a minute ago. Rather, they all moved to Eretz Yisrael. V'nosu noshim, and they married in Eretz Yisrael. V'yilidu banim u'banas, and they had children. And Ahmad Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseir Raga, Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseir stood up, and he says, I'm an anikel. V'yamar anim ibnei b'neim. I am an anikel of those people that were resurrected by Yecheskel and in Bavel and came up there to Yisrael. I'm an anikel. You know what? V'alalu tefillin shenichli avi abba mahem. My grandfather has tefillin, an heirloom in the family from years, and this tefillin is tefillin that the people that were resurrected wore. Now we have a good thing for Genovim, for Akiva. This pair of tefillin Akiva could raffle off next year.
About the godless tefillin, of course, that wasn't resurrected.
Huh?
So they wore, this is the pants that they wore.
Yeah, but he has the tefillin. Listen, let's see how much Akiva is going to put it up for next year. Zok Gemara, Umaninu, who are these Mesim Shehechse Yecheskel? Omarav, these were not such good people. Ela b'nei Ephraim shamanu laketz. These are the b'nei Ephraim that died because they miscalculated and thought that the Geula came and didn't. V'to, and they made a mistake. As Rashi says, the interesting Rashi here, Shemanu laketz al yitzis mitzrayim. So these people were dead for a long time. By Galus Bavel, these guys had died a long time. I'm not sure where these bodies were. Were they buried in Bavel? Like, I'm not sure how this worked. V'to, they made a mistake. They were supposed to start counting the 430 years from when Yitzchak was born, but they counted 30 years earlier, the beginning of this period, from when it was told to Avram. Is a Yitzchak. It's Yitzchak who's going to be the ger, meaning the goal starts from Yitzchak. When Avram was told about the goal that would happen in the future. How old was Avram Avinu ben Bris ben Absarim? Ben Shivim Shana. He was 70. When Ben Absarim Machadol Yitzchak, Hayalam Chana. Yitzchak wasn't born until 30 years later when Avram Avinu was 100. Avram ben Ma'ashana b'Haylad Loi b'Yivalad Loi Yitzchak B'Noi. Nimtus Aimer b'Shadibur Imoi ben Absarim Achiyotzu b'Mitzrayim Hayu Arba Meos was 400 years from the time he was spoken into in Ben Storm until they left Mitzrayim was 400 years. No, that doesn't make sense. What does the Dalet say? It should have been 460. Where's the Dalet over there? Dalet says Shloishim. Yeah, it was 430 years. V'Oisen Lamed Shemin Adibor at latest Yitzchak told Bnei Ephraim that was their mistake. Uminayin, so they counted from Avram Avinu. Uminayin Shebnei Ephraim hey Sheyotzu Kodim Zmanav in the Hergu. How do you know it was Bnei Ephraim? How do you know who these people were? Shenamar Uvnei Ephraim Shuselach v'Hargum Anshigas. So now it brings psukim to show that a whole bunch of the Bnei Ephraim were killed. Shedamar, it says, Uvnei Ephraim, Shuselach, Ubared B'noi, V'sachas B'noi, Ve'aloda B'noi, V'sachas B'noi, V'zevet B'noi, V'shuselach B'noi. It seems like these names were recycled a lot. Ve'ezer, Ve'elod, Ve'haragum, Anshe Gas, Hanoldim, B'oretz. So it says that the Nolda Gas was killed them. Ephraim was misabel over his children. So I guess He was misabel over his children, and his brothers came to be menachem him. So let me just see this pasuk here. So it's much that the Bnei Ephraim left Mitzrayim, and somehow they made it over to Babel to where these Mesim were that Yecheskel resurrected years later. They were killed by the Bnei Gash. Shmuel Amar, Shmuel says,
Gath is one of the Plishti cities.
So where is that? That's not by Bavel.
Plishtim. That they were going to Plishtim. I don't know
That's
how.
in the Middle East. That would have been in the Middle East.
Yeah, it's
But
the
Yecheskel
Plishtim.
was resurrecting people over there.
The Gaza Strip or Gath. We have a Kiryat Gath that exists today.
Uh-huh.
But it's one of the 5 Plishti cities.
So then it's funny, how did these people get buried in Bavel? Because
right.
that's where Yecheskel resurrected them.
Well, it could be Nevuah. It could be just a Nevuah, not a.
That was one sheet of Emes Moshel Haya.
Yeah, right.
I'm not sure how these bones. I'm not sure how these bodies were buried in Bavel. I'm not sure. Anyway, Ushmul Amar Elu b'nei Adam shekafru b'tchias hamesim. These were people who were covered in tchias hamesim. So Rashi says, "Meishim shehechshe Yecheskel Elu b'nei Adam shekafru b'tchias hamesim shenemar avda sikvasenu." So that's easier to understand. In Bavel, people were so depressed. They said avda sikvasenu. They stopped believing in tchias hamesim and they died. So that's why they were buried in Bavel. But why these Bnei Ephraim who were killed by the Plishtim, why they were buried in Bavel, I don't know. Shenemar v'yomer Eli ben Adam. I was told Ben Adam. Yecheskel was referred to by the Rebbe Shem as Ben Adam. These bones, Kol Beis Yisrael Hema, they are from Kol Beis Yisrael, and Rashi will explain what that is. Hine Oimrim, they said Yovshu Atzmoisenu, our bones have dried. This is where the dry bones comes from. This is a Nevuah. But Avda Sikvasenu, and our whole hope is gone. Nixar that was our Gzera. So because of that, Yecheskel made on these people. That's why they didn't stay up for too long. He just wanted to demonstrate with them that there was going to be Tchis HaMesim. They didn't have a little bit of a moisture from mitzvah. They were people who bereft of Torah and mitzvahs and Yiddishkeit. Again, why would he wake them up? He waked them up and they dropped back dead again. I don't know if Rabbi Yehud ben Beseir would have been so proud to be there in the klach, but could be on the tzad that they lived, that they went to Yerushalayim, they got remarried. Maybe that doesn't fit with this. The dried out bones. You dry bones, listen to Hashem, dry bones. Okay. Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha said they were very bad people. They graffitied up the Heichel. They actually graffitied up the whole Heichel with horrible pictures of Avodah Zarah. Shenemar v'ova ve'erav v'nikol tavnis remesh u'behemos sheketz. The whole walls were covered with horrible Avodah Zarah. V'chol gilulei beis Yisrael muchuka ala kirsov. That's why it could be that's not according to this pshat. According to this pshat, it makes more sense today. They were resurrected to make a point and they dropped back dead. So can you imagine they wake you up? Who knows how much you have to travel and what a big deal it is to come back to life, and then just for a second to say sure and drop back dead again, right? But it could be going to a different shot, right? So let's see what Rashi says. Hatamis eila kol beis Yisraelim. Hatamis alol simin lechol Yisraelim. There are simin to all of Klal Yisrael. Shasido lahem tchias hamesim kamoy laelu. That they're going to have tchias hamesim. No, there's a simin just like these people have tchias hamesim. You're going to have as well. Sharei elu amru of the sikvasenu ba'achshav yedu shani mechayis hamesim. They said there's no hope for them, and look, I brought them back to life. There should be a siman zel lechol Yisrael shegam heim asidim lachiyos. All of Klal Yisrael, you're going to relive. Even those who are alive, we're going to get back to our goals. And it stems because, like David said, Yidden were so rugelklapped by the first goals. They mamish didn't know how to handle it. We're Baruch Hashem experienced. We know how to get into the groove of goals. But in those days, they didn't even know how to handle it. They didn't know a life without in goals. So they needed the chizuk. They didn't deserve to come back alive. They were just used. They literally did graffiti of getchkes. And then it says, "Uchsiv hasam v'havireni aleihem saviv saviv," as Rashi's claim al oishin anoshim shekasav aleihem saviv over aleihem, meaning Yecheskel was led around these dead people, the dry bones, lachiyosam, to be able to resurrect them. So we have a whole bunch of shittas of who these people were. They were either people who were from the Bnei Ephraim, who tried to escape Mitzrayim early, or they were people who said Avdasik Vasenu, or even worse, they were people who had no shemitz of a mitzvah in them, or even worse than that, they were people who did graffiti of horrible images on the Heichel. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, Elu Mesim Shebebikas Dura. Could be Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseir only announced that he's an Enikel before he learned the rest of the Gemara. After the Gemara would have quoted all the Shittas, maybe Rabbi Yehuda wouldn't say that. Right? Elu Mesim Shebebikas Dura. These Mason were buried in the Bika of Dura, that's somewhere in Bavel. I don't know exactly where it is. This is a fascinating story. There was a massacre of many young boys. When I say young boys, I mean like in their low 20s, in their in their high teens, that were massacred by Nebuchadnezzar in Bavel, and we're going to soon see why he did that. Minahar Eshel ad Rabbas Bikas Dura, there was a huge shetach where there was a mass grave of many people that Nebuchadnezzar massacred. Shebishosha Higla Nebuchadnezzar Russia Yisrael, when Nebuchadnezzar Russia exiled Klal Yisrael from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, Hayu behen Bechurim, they were Bachurim there that were so incredibly, strikingly good looking. Shayu Meganin es Achama B'Yofyan. Meganin either means shade or humiliate the sun by how beautiful they were. How does it touch Meganim? If they were so beautiful, they drowned out the sun. They put the sun to shame. Right? They were so beautiful, people wouldn't even look at the sun. They only noticed these people. These are called, they were drop dead gorgeous, right? These Bachrim. And what happened was, the married Bavli woman lost their interest in their husbands. They were just dying for these boys. Royas Oisan, the Shoifais Zavais, and they would literally become Zavais from the taiva that they had, that they wanted these boys so much. So Amrul Valayan, they told their husbands, we don't want you anymore. We're very turned on for these boys, these Jewish boys. Ubalayan, they said, we got a problem. So they went to the Melech, to Nebuchadnezzar. We got a problem over here. So Nebuchadnezzar, no problem, we'll kill them all. Tziva Melech, V'Hargum, HaKadosh Baruch Hu killed them. So, no, I'm sorry, not Kadosh Baruch Hu, Nebuchadnezzar killed them, but their bodies were there, and their bodies were not, mutilated. They were still complete. So just looking at their bodies, these women were so gripped by taiva. So Tziva Melech V'Ramsum HaKadosh, I keep on saying that. Nebuchadnezzar gave the command, and they mutilated and crushed the bodies so that they shouldn't be able to see them anymore, which is what they did to the Bibas children. Okay, so that's who these people were. So these are innocent boys. These are innocent Erlich Bochum that because they looked so beautiful, look what happened to them. Tana Rabban, Bishosha Hippel Nebuchadnezzar Rosh Chananya Mishal Vazar Lakivshon. Fascinating story. When Nebuchadnezzar threw Chananya, Mishal, and Azariah into the Kivshon, Yecheskel was one of that chevra. There were four Nevi'im there together. Omar lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yecheskel. HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Yecheskel HaNavi, how are you going to punish Nebuchadnezzar and wake him up? Leich v'hachya mesim bebikas dura. Go wake up those mason who threatened to take down Babel. Even the moment he made them alive again, the bones of these buried people came and started wrapping him on the face. Now Rashi says something very fascinating. What do you mean the bones came? He made chisamesim. So Rashi says that what he did was, it's not like the Holocaust, where you would make lampshades with the skin of Eden. He made kalim, he made koisos, he made cups, mugs, with bones of Jewish people. And what happened was those bones, when he tried to drink from those cups that were made out of Jewish bones, their cups smacked him across the face. So Omar, it was a massive nace, and Nebuchadnezzar was gripped by the nace and the oisos and the moifsim of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to a huge point. Let's see what happened. Omar Mativ and Shalelu. So he said, who this Hanani, Mishael, Azariah that I sentenced to death, and they threw them into a kivshin eish, who are they? They obviously have pull with the higher ups because they're wreaking havoc in my kingdom. Amr Loi, I don't know who they are, but I'll tell you who their friend is. Chaverein Shalelu, their friend, referring to Yecheskel Anovi, was Mechayim Mesim Bebikas Dura. He was Mechayim Mesim, and that's what's causing this upheaval in your Malchus. In other words, Hanani, Mishael, and Azariah are very well connected. Pasach va'omar. So Nebuchadnezzar said Shira to the Rebbeinu Shalom. And he said, Asui Kamarabavin. The oysters of HaKadosh Baruch Hu are so many. Utmuhoyu and his wonders, Kamat Kifin. How strong they are. Malchusei Malchus Olam Vishaltoni Im Dar Vadar. In Hebrew it's Malchuska, Malchus Kol Elamim, Umemshalda B'chol Dar Vadar. So he said Shira that you would expect David HaMelech to say. That's what type of Shira, that caliber it was. Rabbi Yitzchak, we have to Yutzak Zov Resach L'Soich Piv Shel Oisei Russia. We have to pour molten gold into his mouth. Gold because he's saying beautiful things. Molten because we want to shut him up. Shel Molei Bo Malach V'Sotrei Al Piv. If it wasn't for the fact that the Malach prevented the Nebuchadnezzar from continuing with his shiros v'sheshbachos to the Rebbeinu Shalom, Bikesh Leganois Kol Shiros v'sheshbachos Amar David B'Sefer Tehillim. He would have said such beautiful shiros v'sheshbachos, it would have ridiculed the shiros that David said in Tehillim. So we have to stop him, but Lamaisa we have to acknowledge that he said great shiros v'sheshbachos to the Rebbeinu Shalom. Tana Rabbanim, Shisha Nisim Nasu Bois Hayom. 6 nisim happened that day when Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah were saved from the Kivshin age. Now the Kivshin is normally in the ground. Like they dig a hole in the ground and they smear it with some type of lining, and that's the Kivshin that they heat up. But in this case, Safa Kivshin. The Kivshin came up above ground so that everybody could see what was going on. If it comes up, it's like a big cup, you don't see what's going on inside. The Nifrat HaKivshin. The wall of the Kivshin broke open. So everyone was able to see inside the Kivshin age that Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah were not scathed. Rashi is two pshatim. Either means the Kivshin itself sort of dissolved, or Rashi says it's more figuratively, Nebuchadnezzar's Malchus dissolved, because everyone saw that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was punishing him. The Napach Tselem al Panov, Nebuchadnezzar made a Tselem that got turned over, and V'nifrasu Arba Malchios, 4 kingdoms were burnt, and the Hechia Yecheskel es HaMesim beBikasdu, and Yecheskel was Machai the Mesim in Bikasdura. V'chulu, all of these items that we're just telling you about, these 6 items, Gemara. We know from Kabbalah, we know passed on from generation to generation that these nisim occurred. But one of these 6 nisim, we have a raya from a pasuk. V'arba malchios is a krah. It says in the pasuk, Nebuchadnezzar Malka Shalach, he wanted to make a spectacle, so he gathered all the kings to see this spectacle. So who did he gather? Let's count. Shalach lemichnash, he sent to gather in Achashtar Penaya is number 1, Signaya is number 2, Pachvosa is number 3, Adar Gazaria is number 4, Gad Baraya is number 5. The Tavri is number 6, and Tafsi is number 7. The Chol Shultani Medinas, and all the leaders of all the kingdoms around. So that's how who we gathered. And then Uchsiv Isi Govin Yudain, he said, there's the Jews that are coming here are making trouble, and we want to kill them, and we're going to throw Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah, Uchsiv, and then it says when this whole spectacle happened, they gathered together, and let's see who was there and who was missing. So he was still survived. Saganya, he still survived. Hachvasa still survives. But the other 4, meaning Ad Gezaria, Gedbaraya, Tavra, and Ptafsa, they're not here anymore. They're gone. So those are the 4 malachim that got burnt over here. The Hadberi Malka, Chazin Lagaver. Okay. Tana Dvei Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov. Afilu b'shas sakana, even when you're in a sakana. So Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah was in a very big sakana. They were about to be thrown into a kivshin aish. They were summoned by the king for trouble, but you would think they would come in their shemata clothing. No, they came in their best clothing, in their most choshev robes. Lo yishana adam es atzmai min harabbanan shalai. The leader has to always come dressed in the same respectful type of dress that he always wears. As Rashi says, Al Yishanim min Rabbanan Shloi, Sherichanani Mishal V'Azariah Hayulevushin Bigdei Tif'arton. They were wearing their most beautiful clothing, Kishahushlechu the Kivshon, where they are thrown into the Kivshon. Al Yishana Shaloyir Mavual Mafuchat. They have to be confident and calm. They should never even appear to be nervous. They should be so calm and in control. Therefore, they should be wearing their regular robes. Umispaishin Soinav Mifanav. In this way, they will become humiliated. That we're not nispol from them. Shenemar Baden Gavra Elech Kavsu. They came Bisar Belein Pashtoin v'Kabalosim. They came with their beautiful clothing when they were summoned to the king. Amar B'Yochanan. Gedolim tzadikim yoshim malachei asharis. Tzadikim are even greater than malachei asharis. How do you see that? Shenemar Onav Omar. So the Olam saw what was going on inside that kivshin because the wall opened up. And what do they see in the kivshin? Hanachazi Gurvin Arba. I see 3 people, Shorion Mahalchin Begavnura. I see 4 of them. Now we know there's only 3. Chanyani, Mishal, Vazariah. Who's the 4th? The Chava La'esi behind. And they're not getting hurt. Urevaya di Revi'ah, and the look of the 4th guy, Dummel Barlin, looks like very godly. In other words, the 4th one was a malach. But what happened over here is they went first because the 4th one looked like a malach. He's number 4. 1, 2, and 3 are the tzaddikim who are even greater than the malach. It didn't say the first guy looked like a malach. The last guy looked like a malach. When they came out of the Kivshan Eish, all of the Umas Olam came and attacked Klal Yisrael. The Tavchul Sanein Shel Yisrael Lashon Shaki Nor Alpaneim, and they told him, "You're doing avodah zarah. Amru lem yesh lachem Eloka kazeh, va'atem mishtachbim l'tzelem, because Klal Yisrael were doing avodah zarah." And when all of the nations of the world saw the loifsim and the nisim that Hakadosh Baruch Hu did, they told Klal Yisrael, "You out of your mind? With a God like that, you're busy hacking Chainik with Salamim." Miyat Paschu v'amu l'cha Hashem atzdaka. Klal Yisrael said, "L'cha Hashem atzdaka v'lonu boish aponim." We're humiliated because we were literally caught trading in a Rebbeinu Shalom, the great Rebbeinu Shalom, for the nonsense of the Getchkes. Amar Reb Shmuel bar Nachmani Amar Reb Yonasan. My dechsev, it's in the pasuk. Amarti, I said, Ela b'tamar oichtebis and sonav. I'm going to climb up into this beautiful date tree and I'm going to grab onto its branches. How do we dash in this pasuk? Amarti Ela b'tamar is Elu Yisrael. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to come to Klal Yisrael and embrace Klal Yisrael. The achshav loy ola b'yodi elasansin echad. All of Klal Yisrael were doing avodah zarah. I couldn't even find any yidden except for one branch, shel Chananya Mishol V'Azariah, because they were the only yidden who remained truly faithful to the Rebbeinu Shalom. It says in the pasuk, "Re'isi alayla," I saw the night. V'hine ish roichev al sus edoi. There's a rider riding on a red horse. Who I made bein hadasim, and he's sitting amongst that. He's standing amongst hadasim. Asher b'matzula. So, what are we dashing the pasuk? So Gemara, my ra'isi halayla says right. The pasuk is ra'isi halayla. That means bikesh hakadosh baruch hu lahapoch es kol ha'olam kula lalayla. Rashi the Rebbeinu Shalom wanted to destroy all of the world. Rashi says since they bow down to the Tzelem in Nebuchadnezzar's times, because Baruch Hu wanted to destroy the world. But v'hine ish roichev. Who's the ish roichev? Ein ish ala Kadosh Baruch Hu shenemar Hashem ish milchama Hashem shmoi. So Kadosh Baruch Hu is nimshal to roichev ala sus edom. What edom is the red of fire of destruction? Because Kadosh Baruch Hu lahapoch es ha'olam kuloi lidam. But kimen shenistakel b'chananya mishol v'azarya. Once the Rebbeinu Shalom saw the great tzaddikim of Chananya, Mishal V'Azariah, Niskara Daitoi, HaKadosh Baruch Hu calmed down, Kiva Yochel, Shenemar V'Oimei Ben Hadasim, Asher B'Matzula, he was by the Hadasim in the depth, V'Ein Hadasim El Tzaddikim, and the Hadasim is referring to the tzaddikim, Shenemar V'Oimei is Hadasa, again referring to the Haggadah, where Esther was referred to as Hadasa, V'Metzula El Bavel, the depth, Shenemar Ha'omer, L'Tzoyla, Charbi, Unarisecha Oivish. Miad Melayim Roiges, Nasa shrukim vadumim. They became colorful and then red, and then nasu levanim, then became white. Omar Papa, you see from here, Shema Mina, sushi chayure mali lechalma. If you see it, so what happened was it was red because Hakadosh Baruch Hu wanted to kill Klal Yisrael. Then and then it became white after Hakadosh Baruch Hu started to leak him. So you see, a white horse is a good sign. It's a sign of Ratzon Hashem, and Hashem didn't kill us. So if you have a dream if you dream about a white horse, mali lechalma, it's a good sign in the dream. So now I know I have to dream about a white horse. Okay, Gavaltik. Baruch Hashem, we were zoichet to finish that Tzadik Beis. We even part of Tzadik Gimel. Tomorrow, I'm only going to be here on Zoom. So I'm going to say share on Zoom tomorrow, Mitzvah. Hopefully Friday, I'll be back on time to say shir. I'm trying to leave New York.